All right, for our very first topic on the round table today, it's Mr. Fluffy Fingers MD. What do you have for us today, Fluffy?
Um, I guess like I'm gonna kind of ad lib what I wrote down, right? Because like I wrote down some bullets, but that was like an idea, and so the idea is like, what is it about the loot and the challenges of this game that like really sinks its hooks into people? Because it does that, like for the people listening, for the people on the show, like at some point, even if it isn't now, even if you're burnt out now, like at some point, Destiny got its hooks in you, and like you just couldn't not think about it, not play it, whatever it was, right? And it's funny because oftentimes it isn't always like spending time doing something that you're fully enjoying, but it's more for the end result, right? So like from the loot aspect, I often think about like trials, like um if I'm playing with a team, I'm fine, right? If I'm playing with a team of my friends who play trials a lot, I'm fine. I have 35 career flawlesses, right? Only one of those I did solo. So 34 of those were because my friends were playing with me, and I was most likely the worst person on the team. I don't know. But yet I'll play hundreds and thousands of games by myself, knowing the outcome is not going to be in my favor, chasing loot, um, chasing the challenge of getting better, trying to learn from my mistakes, trying to learn the map, trying to just improve my outcome, even though I know I'm at like a huge disadvantage because I'm just not of the same caliber of the people that can play solo and go flawless every week. Um, from the loot aspect, like farming, like we talked about Onslaught earlier in the show, and Onslaught is I think it's a great mode. I think it's something really cool that Bungie brought to the table, and I think they should do more stuff like that. But whether it's Onslaught, whether you're farming the same Nightfall for like 6 hours a night every single night of the week that it's out looking for a role, like we find ourselves doing these activities in PvE and PvP uh in a repetition over and over and over again, grinding for this loot. And oftentimes, like, we might not even use the loot, or we use it for a week and then we go back to what we were playing with before that loot was even introduced. Like, I have 500 items in my vault, and every time I go to clean my vault, I'm deleting things that I maybe have been holding on to for years that have never seen the light of day since I got them because like some other shit was on the table, or I used it for a week and then I went some other way. um so I guess with you guys, like, why do you think it is? Like, what is it about Destiny that makes us do things sometimes that brings us more frustration than joy, or brings more failure than achievements? What have you guys, I guess, what value do you have in it? What value do you see in that?
I'm gonna let someone else go first because I have a lot to say because I am so able to relate to a lot of what you're saying, and I don't want to like take up everybody's time. So I'm gonna let somebody else go first.
Parody?
Well, here I was just hoping just to say ditto to whatever you were going to say.
Dang it. I thought I had notes, but okay.
It was over. Yeah,
Hey, thanks everybody for coming tonight.
yeah, I mean, I think it was basically. I mean, you sort of hit the nail on the head. I mean, some of it's the friend game. You play it because, sometime in 2014 or 15 or 16 or 17 or 18, a buddy of yours goes, "Hey, I picked up this game, Destiny 2. It's from the guys who made Halo. We should check it out. Go grab it out of GameFly. Go hit up Redbox and rent it for a weekend."
Mhm.
And then you look back 10 years later and blink, and you're going, "What happened? How did we get here?" It's just a world that you dove headfirst into. It was interesting. It was compelling. It was from, either from a studio you trusted, you had friends that played it, you got up early in the morning to raid with your friends, half drunk after their night shifts, while you were getting ready to go to work. They were riding that fine line of drunk enough to do Vault of Glass, but not too drunk to miss the cues and shoot the wrong oracle. And just you found, you were doing that. You were just diving in every day and every week because there was always something to chase. I mean, the good and the bad. There were, there were content droughts in Destiny 1 as there sort of have been in 2, but there was always something to do. There's always something there. Yeah, maybe it's not the new thing, maybe it's not the hot thing, maybe it's, hey, so I've got this one triumph that needs like 6 people to do, that we all need to run the same class and go do a thing. It's been out for 4 years, but I've just never done it. Or hey, I keep missing this one boss that comes up in this rotation that I just keep missing. There's always something to go do, and you can grab some friends and do it, or yeah, just jump into trials and go, I'm not good. I'm not going to be good, but I can have a good time and try to get some rolls with this weapon. I mean, Destiny, it's gone back between its like looter shooter RPG identity, but then end of the day, it's a looter shooter. We're here to make the line go up. The line's here. The line needs to be here. We're here to make the line go up. We're here to reset ranks. We're here to now earn engrams. We're here just to put your token in, pull the lever on the slot machine, see what comes out. Maybe it's great. Maybe it's garbage. Most of it's garbage. But having that one moment, having that like, oh my god, I finally got it moment, that Galahorn drop in D1,
Yeah.
or the raid exotic after 35 runs in D2, having that moment of I finally got the thing I've been chasing. I got my perfect 5 out of 5 god roll, whatever that thing is you're chasing. And that's the beauty of it. So everybody's chasing something different.
Mhm.
There's always something to chase, and everybody has, everyone's like, oh, what's the god roll? Well, who is your god? What are you looking for? There's like,
That's
the
good.
canonical what the god roll is, but it's like I'm never gonna use this. My god roll is that thing over there because I really like that perk or the way this weapon handles or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there's always a different god to chase the roll for, and there's always friends to do it with, and they've just made it easier and easier as time has gone on to say, yeah, come pick it up, come jump in. There's it'll cost you literally nothing. Time it right, and you can play everything for free and say, do you like this taste? Be careful, because you might be here 10 years from now. So, step a toe in gently maybe, but there's always something waiting for you.
Yeah. I'll let you go last, Sweaty, since you seem to have a lot to talk about. It's changed for me, actually. When I first started playing Destiny, I've mentioned this several times on past episodes. I was so burnt out from Call of Duty and multiplayer games. I wanted somewhere I could shoot aliens in the head and have that same Call of Duty feel as a first-person shooter. And for me, when I first played and shot a dreg in the head and it just went and fell to the ground, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love it. I love this. Guy's not juking around. He's an ugly little thing, and the curiosity was off the charts. I mean, I remember looking up in Venus and seeing the acid rain fall on my goggle of my mask. And I'm like, how freaking real is this? And I've talked about it in the past too, about how I would just sit in Cosmodrome. The sound design is so good in this game. If you had some really good earbuds or headphones on, you could hear crickets. You could hear the wind blow by your ear. You could hear something, howling or barking off in the distance. You'd even hear ships flying by every so often. I mean, from at the beginning of Destiny 1, and I've gotten permission from Kingsley that I can call it Destiny 1. Sorry, Fudd. Sorry, you'll have to DM me later about that if you have an issue. But it was all about curiosity for me and just the realism. I mean, Bungie did a great job of sucking me into the Destiny verse, and each planet had its own little personality. And I played Starfield, and I go to these planets. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? I'll just keep going forward. Okay. And I was like, this is boring as hell. As soon as you jump into any planet in Destiny, immediately something's trying to shoot you. There's something going on over here. There's a public event over here. For my ADD brain, because I'm not hyperactive, I call it the old school way, ADD. It was just like this. I was, what's going on over here? And so for me at the beginning of Destiny, it was all about curiosity and just getting sucked into the environment. But as you start to get into the environment, you start playing the game, you start playing the story, you get that level 18 in Destiny, and the stranger just disappears and vaporizes, and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Well, then it started switching over to guns. I totally skipped all the Crucible in year 1 because I was so tired of going up against other players in the game. And it was all about the YouTubers would tell me, whether it was Dado or all the old school YouTubers out there, telling me what weapon was really, really good in the Crucible. So my focus in year 2 shifted over to guns, getting those god rolls. And then they had the gun what was it? The weekly gunsmith resets where you could actually farm and look for different roles. It was like gun day or something. I can't remember what it's called, in fact. But
Arms Day.
Arms Day. Look, just going to the tower every morning to see what's the gunsmith got this week. What's on Arms Day today, you know? And then it was the factions, right? You would go to Dead Orbit and see, okay, what do they got? What's the scout rifle got this week? You know, what did they change this week? For me, it was just the randomness and the fact that you could you're always looking for that perfect weapon, and not only how it shoots and stuff, but how it looks in your hand. That was always big for me too. Now, as we get into Destiny 2, I mean, the story draws you in from the get-go. When you get kicked off of the ship and you got nothing, you're starting from scratch. I mean, that was outstanding. And it seemed like that was the great reset, you know, where you were trying to gather weapons and start building your arsenal up and getting your gear and everything. So I guess to answer your question, Fluffy, it's kind of changed over the years. It started with curiosity, then it came God rolls, then it was Triumph score. It was all about those damn Grimoire cards, because I had that emblem that showed your Grimoire score. Remember that, where you had your Grimoire score and people would look at your Grimoire score. If it was like 5,000 something, you're like, wow, that guy's been playing since day one. That guy knows his stuff, you know? I always liked that. It was a sense of pride for me. Even if I had to go search for dead ghosts everywhere, I still loved that drive to get that Grimoire score up. But it's always been about raising the number, raising the bar. But for me, I would say the major hook for me in Destiny is expressing myself as a guardian. Whether that's that shiny gold from going flawless, that shiny gold was it relic or the charm you can put into your crafted weapons.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God, I can't. I seriously can't. I'm drawing such a blank.
you have an excuse. What's it called, Spooks? What's it called?
The memento.
Memento. Then when they moved to the mementos and then they went to weapon crafting, I must have spent the whole year in when Witch Queen dropped, just I wanted to get everything crafted. I wanted to get all the weapons crafted. That was a big driver for me. And it gave me a mission. It gave me something to work on every day. So once weapon crafting came into the game, and I know a lot of people don't like it, it really, really got its hooks in me. It gave me something to do, and it became truly a hobby for me to log in every day and just keep working toward that gun. So, all right, Fluffy, I've dominated the conversation. I'm gonna leave it to Sweaty here to
I think what you said is valid, though, man. Like,
it's just mine's always changing.
it is always changing, but I mean, it's just funny because, like, it isn't even about like what the joy is in Destiny. It's just funny that we play this game that we find fun, but we spend so much time in it doing shit that we don't want to be doing. You know what I mean?
I've been
Like,
there. I've been there.
like, and maybe it's because, like what Spook said earlier, like you're doing the shit that you don't want to do for 6 or 8 or 12 hours a week, so you
Mhm.
can get the one thing to make it more fun when you do the thing you like.
Right.
It's a weird
It,
it's a
it's
weird addiction.
it's gather weapons so you can use them somewhere else, right?
Yep.
It was always Crucible
Yep.
for me. All right, Sweaty Spooks, what do you got, man?
Okay, so first I wanted to start with the comment of Elmer Fudd. I love you, brother. It's been too long since I've seen your beautiful face. And while he was talking, I put a cat in boots meme where he's got the big eyes simping for you, brother. Thinking of you. I miss you. Need to talk soon. All right. So I'm gonna come back to what basically the topic that Fluffy was talking about. Now, what is it that keeps us playing this game? What is it that we enjoy about this game? I was actually talking about this with Kingsley just before coming onto the podcast. I was hanging out in Space Mafia. Kingsley happened to show up, and we were just kind of talking about that exact same thing. I kind of fall more into the camp of what Fluffy was saying when it came to things like PvP. And Kingsley had a very thought provoking question for me, which I really appreciated. And he was like, well, I mean, how come you don't get that same sense from PvE as an example? And the reward from PvP, or sorry, let me go back to PvE. I am less PvE oriented, and I find I get frustrated a lot faster in PvE, and that's just a personal thing. I recognize that to be a me issue, or not even issue, just something specific to me in comparison to our good friend Kingsley from the Guardian Hub. But the loot is something that motivates me when it comes to PvE because it's something that I can use as arsenal when I'm in PvP. And PvP is really where I enjoy my time. Now, loot motivates me quite a bit, and Kingsley is more motivated from the experience of it. And he prefers to, well, play PvE. And even if he does play PvP, he does prefer to have the larger team.
Mhm.
So he would even prefer to play sixes or even 12s over threes, just because it's more of a varying experience for him. And as opposed to where in 3v3s, he just like for himself, he mentioned to me that he gets kind of bored after a little while. It's just not quite as exhilarating for him. And I mean, PvP is not his thing to begin with. And there are certain tastes and flavors when it comes to those things. So much like Fluffy, I kind of thought about this and I was like, okay, so when it comes to PvE content, raids, and like a normal raid, fine, but a master raid, I really get frustrated quite easily. And he was like, well, why? And I was like, well, if I get stuck at one encounter doing 2 hours, I know that I'm not going to get a reward for my time. And that seems to frustrate me for one reason or another. Um, I was doing Warlord's Ruin dungeon the other day, and I had some help from the Discord, but we couldn't get past that first encounter, and it frustrated me to the point where I was like, guys, I'm recognizing right now I'm starting to tilt a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. I'm going to turn the game off. I'm sorry, guys, but I got to bow out here because I don't want this to ruin the rest of my night, and it's just a game. So that's what I did. But in thinking about that, and then thinking about what Fluffy said, he has 35 flawlesses with friends, which, by the way, Fluffy, congratulations. 35 is definitely an amazing feat.
A lot
And
more than
it's
me.
even better
Yeah.
when you do it with your friends. That is the most rewarding feeling um, when you're with your friends and you manage
Yes.
to hit
I mean,
flawless.
it's awesome, man. It's awesome because most of them are not like, hey, carry me to the lighthouse, but they were like, hey, let's play some Crucible together, and I'm gonna try and be a really good teammate.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I admire that about Fluffy because like I'm not doing a boasting comparison thing. That's not what I'm doing here. I have 45 flawlesses and the number doesn't fucking matter to me at all. Most of my flawlesses are solo, and that just came from putting in the time, being persistent, chasing that loot, but I definitely had at least a couple or a few significantly less than Fluffy when it came to going flawless with friends. But those were the moments that I appreciated the most. Mr. Wad from the Blueberry Lounge. Moira and I worked together and we brought him flawless for his absolute very first time ever. He had never been flawless before. And that feeling was more validating for me than any time going flawless on my own. Now, to compound that, I had the privilege of playing with Mr. Marky Mark and Fluffy Fingers here, and we managed to go flawless one time. And that feeling was way more validating than ever just doing it by myself. The reason I do it by myself, similarly to Fluffy, is you're chasing a specific role. There's a certain weapon that's up for the weekend. It's your favorite archetype. Maybe it's a 140 hand cannon, or maybe it's a 120 hand cannon, or maybe it's a specific pulse rifle. Whatever it may be, there's a bit of motivation there, and it resonates with your play style. And um, there's a certain motivation for you to chase that weapon. And whenever you actually get the weapon, let alone the role, but the opportunity to farm that weapon because you hit flawless, there's one level of validation. The second level of validation for me is whenever you get to farm for your specific role. The third level of validation is when you actually get the role. And the fourth part of the validation is having a memento to slap on some sort of a crafted weapon after the fact, after you put in the work. Maybe you didn't get the role that you were looking for, but hey, you have a memento to put on a crafted weapon with a role that you crafted that is specific to you as a guardian, similarly to how Gator was saying that he can tailor his guardian to reflect his personality himself, to represent who he is within this world that Bungie has created for us. So there's ups and downs when it comes to crafting and it comes to random role chasing. Personally prefer the random role chasing myself because it's unique. You know that you had to put in the work in order to get it. But the benefit is that if you don't, because RNG is random and it's not always guaranteed that you're going to get what you're looking for, there is the fallback that you can get crafting. You can at least get something that's like what you wanted to suit your play style. So I do see bonuses on both parts of those perspectives. Um, and that all of it, everything that I just said, and this is like it really feeds into one of the reasons why at least I spend so much time in this game. That's not even compounding the social aspect of it, which I'll get into later. Um, Now, one thing that's very specific about the social aspect and our friends in this game that I have come to learn to really enjoy is when it's with our friends, that is the friendly class wars that comes out with our friends. You know, you'll always have the Master Titan saying Titan or nothing. And then you'll always have the Hunter coming out saying Hunter Master Race. And just the shenanigans that come out of it has always been a source of enjoyment for me. It's never coming from a place of toxicity. I always think of it as like having a beer with your bros and talking about your favorite sports team, except in this case, it's Destiny. So it's kind of the same culture, I guess. Now, talking about the chasing the roll finally got it moment. Now, that was something that, you know, I was really excited for. I thought of something specific. Talking about the crafting weekend, we all remember that, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh yeah.
During crafting weekend, I seen an opportunity to chase a particular weapon in PvE that I had struggled for about 4 years to get. And I was so excited. I was DMing with Fluffy. We were going back and forth about it. Oh, we got the Fatebringer and we get the time loss version. I ended up farming X amount of rolls. He farmed X amount of rolls. And here's the rolls that we got. We were so excited about it. So, I mean, it's moments like that that really just kind of put Destiny into a special spot in my heart. And I want to end with this final topic because Gator, you had talked about Call of Duty, and I as well before Destiny spent a lot of time in Call of Duty when it came to introduction to first-person shooters.
Mhm.
The dopamine hit that you get whenever you're taking that sniper shot and you actually hit the headshot and it's one shot one kill, or you know, something along those lines. You're starting to feel the improvement. You're feeling the improvement reward that you don't get from a chest. So COD, certainly fantastic introduction to FPS games, but there was one thing about Call of Duty, certainly as a solo player, I mostly play by myself, that was a really bad habit that when I started Destiny, I had brought over from Call of Duty. And Call of Duty taught me how to be toxic, the mental games, right?
Oh yeah.
I was very heavy into that. And
Us too.
it took me a long time to kind of rewire my thinking patterns. And it wasn't until I met my good friend Fluffy Fingers here. Because I kind of just seen how he reacted to situations, how he treated situations. And at first, I'm not even sure he probably even remembers this, honestly, but I do because it impacted me to the point that I made a change that I carried forward with me. At the time, I got easily discouraged, easily frustrated, tilted very easily, and all of a sudden, I didn't have a Fluffy to play with because he was like, "Yeah, I just kind of like don't want to be around that energy."
Yeah, dude. If there's one thing that is true for me, like I have no interest in playing with people who are bitching and complaining all the time, man. I got better shit to do with my time. Like,
Hey, Sweaty. I'm there with you, man.
yo, too invested in this shit. To escape bullshit, not to get more of it in my ears.
Fluffy is the great equalizer when it comes to tilt. I'm sorry, what was that, Faraday?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm here to turn my brain off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not trying to. This is not life. This is not the career I'm going. I want to shoot aliens in the face, not think about things.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm guilty, 100%, and I take ownership of that. But, you know, coming into Destiny, I realized that there was a lot more to this game than just hardcore put on an SMG Call of
Mhm.
Duty where you run and you're the first person to get the shot off, you win.
Mhm.
And, I got to learn, not to learn, sorry, I get to know these personalities through the podcast medium. And I was like, you know what? Fluffy's a really cool guy. I feel like a piece of shit right now because I totally just acted like a complete arse bag. Like, and I knew that. So I just kind of took a step back and I was like, okay, why am I tilting first off?
Mhm.
And I answered that for myself because honestly, it was just ego that was completely undeserved to start with. Secondly, there is no room for ego, certainly if you want to improve. And thirdly, if you're chill, you'll probably be able to hang out with the people that are way more skilled than you that will help you answer those questions along the way as you go. So I'd like to
Yeah.
thank Fluffy here and now in front of all these people and take ownership of my previous behavior and say that I really appreciate the lessons that I've learned from your example, that you maintained that, and I was able to learn from that. And by learning from it, not only just acknowledging where I went wrong, listening, observing, but I also enacted how I could better myself in the terms of social behavior. And that has opened up a lot of doors for me in the world of Destiny 2. Because I could just imagine I wouldn't be here right now if I were that egotistic, tilting to the winds, yelling at the sky with the fist up,
Mhm.
like I wouldn't be here. So I sincerely owe a thank you to not just Fluffy, of course, but the whole community.
Mhm.
I was able to learn quite a bit, and I'll get into that topic later.
Yeah.
But just to close things out,
Mhm.
loot, experiences, the reward feeling, crafting versus random rolls, the trials experience, the people I've met, the class wars, and the finally gotcha moment when it comes to loot. Those are all the reasons that I have been so heavily ingrained into this game.
It's funny. Thanks for that, Sweaty. That was very thorough, man. Um, I got to think about this. I think I was talking to Kingsley a few shows back, and Hammer Crasher did talk about Tilt. That was his story in the second roundtable. If you ever want to go back and listen to that one, that was a great conversation too. Yeah, we all aspire to be Fluffy. He's so good at grounding his emotions when it comes. And you know what's funny is Fluffy's a damn good Crucible player, and
Average.
he's humble. But he's very good at neutralizing his emotions. Where what I do now is I had to step back too, man. I had to step back. I says I can't play in a group anymore until I get my attitude correct. And what I do if I'm getting tilted or something, if I'm when I'm into playing with a group, is you'll just see me get quiet. I'll just turn my mic off, and I usually don't have cameras on. So I'll just get quiet, and people ask me a question. Hey, Gator's getting toxic. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. But the thing I was talking to Kings. I said, how on earth has this game hooked us for 10 years, and we're just like waking up from a dream? And here's the thing. I think I figured it out. I played Call of Duty for about 6 to 7 years. This is the longest video game I've ever played in my life, ever. I mean, I'm going back to Donkey Kong, all those eras back then. This game, there's something about it, but I think the thing that I really love about Destiny is it offers so many different avenues to go down. One thing I failed to mention that's really got its hooks in me, I'm just now finding out about all this lore, all this backstory that is not in the story. It's not in the campaigns. And I will talk about that later. But there's something about Destiny that whether it's triumph score or whether you want to get a title or whether you want to be a PvP god or whether you want to be a raid Sherpa, whatever you want to be, and I'm kind of floating around a little bit of all that, it Destiny lays it out for you. And I think a lot of live service developers out there need to really perk up and look and see what Bungie's doing, because it's got its hooks in us for so long. And it doesn't even, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't even feel like 10 years to me. It doesn't feel like 10 years to me. I mean, that's a whole decade playing Destiny. If
Yeah, dude.
2014 to me feels like, I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe, but there's something at Destiny magic that just keeps us enthused. It could be the dopamine hit, like you said, Sweaty. It could be a lot of different things, but there's something about this game. It's something in the magic ingredients, the magic sauce. And I know there's people they've lost that'll just swear it off, and you'll get nasty comments on YouTube videos and saying, "Ah, you're deluded, dude. You're deluded. Just keep sucking on the copium." I'm like, dude, I'm just telling you how it is. It's the way it feels. But Fluffy, any final words on your topic before we move on?
Um, I think you guys all touched on good points. I think for me, doing shit I don't want to be doing with my time is always better spent with friends in Discord.
Yeah.
So at least if I have to grind shit out, I'd much rather do it with my friends. Yeah, I don't know. It is funny though, like as time, like you say 2014. 2014 seems like forever ago, but like playing D1 doesn't seem like that
No.
long ago.
Doesn't.
But it is. But yeah, man, I think too, like at this point in my gaming career, I have so many weapons that I'm like, it takes a lot to get me to like really dive into a grind for loot at this point.
Mhm.
Like there's just so many good options that maybe they aren't like maybe this one is 11 and the one that I have is 9.
Yeah.
But you know what, dude? I am an average player and a 9 gun and an 11 gun, I'm still going to be an average player. Like that shit's not changing at all. You know what I mean? So like whatever. Whatever. Like let's just have fun. I think that's
Yeah.
just the biggest thing, man. And if you have fun chasing that loot, or you have fun, you know, doing something hard like Pantheon, or day one raid or whatever it is, like you might not get rewarded for it, but sometimes just beating it and getting to that chest is where it's at. So
Excellent. Excellent topic, man. When I know you had a bunch of topics you wanted to cover, and I was like, sorry, man, we can only cover one of those. But dude, you had some great topics. Yeah,
Destiny, and I
yeah,
was like, I just like I've been podcasting about Destiny
I
for
know.
7-ish years, so it's like I talk about whatever I want to talk about every week. So like trying to think about like
I,
shit that I don't just bore my listeners
no,
with.
you had some great. You had some great topics.
Batch of listeners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, for your topic tonight. Um, Siri has told me that I need to get up and stand, so I'm going to do that, and then we'll be right back with our next topic. Be right back.
Six.
All right. Our second topic of the week is going to be from our buddy from Two Titans and a Hunter. It's Parody. What do you got for us tonight, Parody?
Well, I mean, I can only be on brand to come to a show and talk about Gambit because Bungie isn't at all ever. They're like there are three pinnacle activities. There's the one we remembered, and then there's the one we neglected for like a decade, like
Mhm.
5 or 6 years, and now we just finally put out maps for,
Yeah.
and the green one that
Right.
we just don't talk about anymore. We're just like, no. I mean, just I've been thinking ever since Onslaught came out that it's a better Gambit. That's when they announced it. That's how I thought about it. That's how I've been treating it. Gambit, I did a little digging because again my memory is going. Yeah, Destiny launched yesterday, right? We were playing Destiny 1 like last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Came with Forsaken in 2018. Did a whole season of the Drifter, March 2019, gave us Gambit Prime, gave us Reckoning, actual identity, actual armor sets, like, full on stats for the armor, like a reason to play it, a reason to spec into a class, not just go in and treat it like a horde mode or like Gambit is your Shirochi, run in there and get weapon kills. That's what it was, a horde mode before we had a sort of proper horde mode with Onslaught. And then 2020 came around, and with Beyond Light, we went beyond Gambit, and we're just kind of done. They were like, yeah, we're gonna give you the single round instead of 3 rounds. We'll give you Prime, and then Witch Queen came out, and we'll give you a freelance node. Yeah, and then we'll like maybe move some people around and kick the rules. We'll have the modes disappear under the map for like a year and a half, 2 years maybe. I mean, because who cares about playing the objective of the game type? And is basically dead. Like they basically put the nail in the coffin last August. Like they basically took all the weekly challenges away. Gambit's completely optional. Like it's there, you can play it. Like I make it a point to gild that Dredgen title out of spite more than anything else at this point. And because I like being the insane person with the 11 next to my little Dredgen, going, why? What is he doing? Why is he like this? but then they gave us Onslaught, which is just a better version all around of Gambit. I did think it was funny when I was going back to look, because again, just trying to refresh my memory on Season of the Drifter and just what was in the game then. Recluse is back. Recluse, Oxygen SR4, and the 21% Delirium were our pinnacle PvP chases at that point, or our pinnacle activity chases. Arc Week was a big thing. Thorn and Arbalist were coming back to the game, and Recluse. So I think it's funny that we had Recluse then, they sunset Recluse, and then brought it back in Onslaught, which is basically just Gambit 2. It's a better Gambit with more modes. Honestly, just as many maps. I mean, we're down to 2 maps in Onslaught. We're down to 3 maps in Gambit, even though they're bringing us back 2 of the ones allegedly in the final shape, sometime in the final shape. I mean, the future of Gambit is basically, hey, you're getting Cathedral Stars back, or Cathedral Scars back from the Dreaming City, which we vaulted in Beyond Light, and we're going to throw some Shadow Legion Loose and Hive in. And I guess it's a thing you could still play. Like, you could still go do it. It's just funny that, like, when it came out, it was like, they really said this is like the third pinnacle, like the third, leg of the chair of, you've got your Vanguard for strikes and nightfalls. You've got Crucible for all of your PvP everything, as that's grown and expand and gotten forgotten and gotten remembered over time. And then this third mode, which we invested in, then we ignored for years, and then say, no one's playing the game type we're ignoring, so we're just not going to invest in it anymore. So in my heart of hearts, I'm hoping it's basically the people who are working on Gambit going, let's make Onslaught. Menagerie was really good. It was basically your same sort of can't fail activity, tons of loot, match made. There was a reason to go back into it time and time again. Onslaught is really like sort of that mix of Menagerie and Gambit for me. It's a thing to go into. You can play with friends, you can play it alone. There's something to chase. There's a reason to go do it. There is a time limit to it. Like, it's still gonna be around in final shape. You can still go play it, still go grind it out till you're blue in the face. But there's that shiny chase. Like, there's something there. There's something to go get. Where the chasing Gambit is usually, hey, we threw a hand cannon in there for the PvP mains, and they might play it for 2 weeks, well, until they get the hand cannon they want, and then they'll never touch it again. Hey, we'll throw an interesting weapon in here every now and again. Never play it again. I mean, Onslaught, I don't feel like I need to talk about, because if you play the game at all, you know Onslaught. If you've been anywhere near Destiny, free to play, Into the Light, Onslaught, fantastic activity, very much the same vibe as Gambit. So while I still keep hoping maybe that there will be some sort of, they'll find the Gambit armor and go, hey, that's a thing we could bring back for you, or hey, Reckoning, we could revive some of that, or just do something with it. But I'm just waiting for them just to pull the plug on it entirely and go, we're just going to remove it. We're just going to take it out. And in my head, I was thinking Onslaught would sort of fit nicely sort of into that node versus Vanguard, because it's sort of, hey, we have a horde mode thing. You could bring Menagerie back. You could bring different, Sundial back, bring, just like they've done with the exotic rotators. You could bring those like seasonal match-made activities back periodically. Hey, we're going to bring it back for an episode or a month, or hey, while the dawning is up, let's bring back something with that. Just, they have a decade of content. They could bring back, obviously it's not all ready to go, ready to ship, but we have all this content in Destiny 2 in some stage of it. You could bring it back, all of the seasonal activities, or not seasonal, all the like the special holiday activities are like the same thing we've been playing for 6 years in a row. It'd be nice to have a little extra in that. So just, this was partially my moan of, I wish Gambit, could be something that was worth investing in, worth playing, because I get it. I get why no one steps foot into it. Gambit is my Shirochi. Gambit is my place to go where I need kills. It's where I go if I just want to turn off my brain and murder some things. Because it's just a phenomenal place to run around. And I treat it as my own little... I set my own objectives of, let's see how many modes I can make, or how many kills I can get, or how many invaders I can take down. Just like, I basically make it a meta mini game to play the activity, because it's just, as Bungie was finally making noises about remembering PvP was a thing again, going, oh, we're going to make a strike team. We're going to bring you maps. We're going to actually think about balance. We're going to give people a reason to go into trials. I keep, again, thinking, are we going to even mention the word Gambit? Are we even going to say the name? No, we aren't. And clearly that's never going to happen again. But I'm glad if at the end of the day I'm trading Gambit for Onslaught, that's a trade I can deal with, but it's still going to have the same problem of the replayability of Gambit. I find still there because I enjoy it's different enough and varied enough. I think with the PvP part of it, like yeah, Onslaught gives you sometimes a Tormentor shows up or the big knights show up. Like there's a little bit of variability, but you can have super quick Gambit games and you can have just absolute like Pyrrhic victory Gambit matches where you've got a good invader and they've got a good invader, and you're just going back and forth trading kills.
Right.
And you're like, if someone eventually ekes out that win, and it's so satisfying or crushing, to either get that victory or just barely lose it. And that's that's Gambit at its best for me. And I know, again, I know Bungie is long past the point of even considering it, but I keep hoping maybe they'll bring something back, or at least a flavor of it, because Destiny is where it's where I go, it's where I live. Like it's where I want to go turn my brain off and shoot aliens in the face. And I'm glad we have another place to do that. I just wish that I almost wish they would just take it out back and kill it all the way. If they're just gonna not invest in it,
yeah,
I'd rather they just say, hey, it's done. Let's just remove it versus having it stay in its mostly broken state for the longest time. It's actually right now in a pretty good state. Like they fixed a lot of the moat falling through the floor. Like there's not a lot of, I say knock on wood, I haven't played it in the last couple of weeks, but like it doesn't have any like super massive issues that I can think of, like it has for the longest time. But it's weird to see this huge like rise and fall of Gambit as this like third leg of the chair of these are our ritual activities. You're what you're going to go in and log into every week,
right?
And now it's just gone entirely. But at least we got Onslaught out of it. So
out of curiosity, Parody, if you don't mind me asking, what A was your favorite version of Gambit, and B, what's your ideal Gambit for you?
The rose-colored glasses make me want to say the 3-round version of Gambit.
Was that Prime?
No, you had a tiebreaker possibly if you.
Yeah. Like when it very first launched, it was 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's basically best of 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they tweaked it a bunch over that. I mean, I think my ideal version of Gambit would be Prime. Give me. I always said give me the Prime armor. Basically, give me an identity to play the game mode. Make it more than just a mindless horde mode. Give me something to build. Basically, like we're doing with Onslaught. You're not going to Onslaught as the sentry or the invader or the collector, but you basically are. You're basically saying, I'm going to go in and I'm going to heal everybody. I'm going to go in and I'm going to shadow shot everything in sight. I'm going to throw strand at everything that comes my way. Like you're basically doing that same, the same thing we do with Destiny. Make a build, go into a content, see how the build performs. I would just love to have some of that real identity to say, I can go build into this collector. I can carry 20 motes. I can throw a giant blocker at the other team. Or I can sit here and I can sit on this bank and just destroy everything that comes my way. Mm-hmm. Gambit. I think a mix of Gambit Prime and Gambit, basically, sort of the way it is now, with one single mode that I still feel like plays longer, but giving the game an identity and just giving us the maps back. Like there's we're getting one of them back. There was only I think one other one they took out, but just like throw us a map every year. Like I'm not asking for a lot. Like I'm not asking. We don't need everything. Take some of these PvP maps. I'm sure they would play pretty well on Gambit too. Like there's some of these PvP maps that are kind of big and kind of that people don't really enjoy. Convert them into Gambit maps. Mess around with them a little bit. I'm sure people are going, no, it's a terrible idea for all these 19 balance reasons. But like you've got this activity, you've got the assets. Let me go play in more places.
Just an aside here. The Destiny team just tweeted out today that you see the big frustration for me in Gambit is especially if you played with Blueberries, they were just doing their bounties. They just want to get their bounties done so they can get their 120 bright dust and be done with it. So you weren't working cohesively as a team. You were 4 players with 4 different goals while playing. Well, they just tweeted out today that they have this new Pathfinder system they're going to have where they're I don't know if they're getting rid of your vendor bounties for Crucible, Gambit, and Vanguard, but they have some new system coming. And just to let you all know, do not save those bounties because they're probably going to be useless. They said they will disappear. That's okay. There's plenty other bounties. Yes, there will be plenty other bounties. You can get all your planetary bounties done, but that's an aside. But I loved Gambit Prime because Gambit Prime I wore that. I was a sentry. I would basically my the perks that I got as a sentry, and I had the glowing yellow armor, is I would take care of any blockers they sent. I'd have something quick to knock them down. And what was really great is I can immediately ping the invader. So my team knew exactly where to go, and he was marked. People knew where he was. So it was almost like your invader and your other part of your team were on a same level. Even though this invader had more health, but now we have aim not aimbot, but we have wall hacks for this invader now. So now we know exactly where he's at, and it just even the playing field just from being a sentry. Then you have invaders, which means if you got near the vault, you would stop any accumulation. It would put a halt to any of the moats being, going up or whatever. If you were, you'd have benefits if you were the green armored guy. I can't remember what it's called, the Reaper maybe, where you go around and you had all these great benefits to just killing stuff. And then you had your collector, which had another set of benefits from collecting stuff. Maybe they can collect a soup. Remember, they could collect enough to send a super boss. They could collect 20 motes, and then they got rid of it. Now, granted, I hated Reckoning. Reckoning was not fun because it was so difficult to play with blueberries, and people would just bail on that bridge every time. You would sit there, put a well down, you try to keep everybody alive. All of a sudden people would just give up and leave. And you needed to do that to get that Gambit Prime gear. So if they were to eliminate that part and then maybe get it where as you're playing Gambit, this gear would just drop for you at the end of a match with some, and and I've talked about this in the past. Put slottable perks just for Gambit. They have slottable perks in raid gear and raid armor where you can put special benefits for your raiders out there. Why not have those benefits? You can even mix and match if you wanted to, and put it into your Gambit Prime gear again and bring it back and bring back all the maps. I don't understand why they got rid of all the maps. I mean, it's not a bandwidth problem. Come on, man. You've already made the maps. Put them back out there. But I wanted to mention one thing before someone else talks here. You mentioned Onslaught replacing Gambit. What if they actually had all of the classic activities from all the past seasons, whether it's Sundial or the Wish right now, the Lair, whatever, and just rotated them. Had a rotator where they rotate and have a playlist where just the activities, because the thing I hate about these activities, people are getting tired of doing them, is you do the same activities every week to get whatever you were trying to get in that season. What if they had a rotator where they would have Onslaught rotate through, or you could put it in an Onslaught Horde mode, but have it themed to that activity? I don't know. I thought that would be a great idea if it replaced Gambit. Now, I think they should bring Gambit Prime back. I mean, you can rejuvenate a whole third arm of this game just by having slottable armor where you can put those old Gambit Prime perks back in, where you can mark that invader, or you can have 20% more damage to bosses that are sent over to your vault. So Gambit Prime was my favorite game, and when they got rid of it, I just was confused. I had no idea why they did that, but I guess they have their reasons. But Onslaught is, and I'll be honest, Onslaught, eventually we're going to get tired of Onslaught too. It's just another activity that we're doing, but it's the fact that you can farm weapons and there's levels to it. I don't like that there's only 50 levels. When we played zombies, we tried to get to 100 without the game crashing. Call of Duty couldn't even handle. There were so many zombies on the map. The servers were just, the bandwidth was just frying. And all of a sudden you'd get a lockup at 5 a.m. in the morning with your pals. And you're like, oh, that game just didn't count because the server couldn't handle it. Those are frustrating days, but I tell you what, I still remember those games. 5 a.m. I'm looking at the clock going, I got to work in 2 hours. What the hell is this? But I'm having fun. Keep shooting. No, go over there. Keep getting that. And that's what I love about the Horde modes. And I'm so glad Bungie brought them with Onslaught. And maybe, I'm hoping maybe they expand upon that into Final Shape or wherever they decide to go from here. But what else? Fluffy, Sweaty, what do you guys think about this?
Up to you, man. You want to go first or not first?
I actually have a challenge question for Parody because I'm curious, and I'm also kind of curious to see what Gator says about this too. So, Gambit in its current iteration, right? if you could trade Gambit, and I know you love Gambit, this is why it's a challenge question. So if you could trade Gambit in its current iteration for, let's say, Leviathan, or maybe even a past activity, is there anything that you would trade it for to have that with its current iteration if you couldn't have it refined?
Leviathan raid done.
Yeah, that was my
Done.
thought process. But
I
I'm
love
curious as to
Leviathan
what
raid.
everybody says.
Menagerie. I mean, like we said, all of these are going to run into the same problem. Again, I'm totally on board with the rotator idea because, I mean, we grinded all of these things for 3 months when we were out. They
Yeah.
weren't even. I mean, who's played Coil in the last month? I mean, granted, this is an extra long season, but by the second month of the season, if you're playing that season, you're so tired of that activity.
Yes.
But I'd
And
love
my
to go back
favorite
to it.
aspect of Gambit was a derelict.
Really?
It was. I don't
Ship?
know why. Yeah, it was different, and that's what I think I liked about it.
Well, they integrated the 9 in there too, at least somewhat. Season of the Drifter, I love that storyline with the 9. That was so fascinating. All the lore in that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Barry. I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy.
No, it's okay. They gave you that first decision of who do you side with that had zero consequences except for voice
And he
lines.
call you snitch when you decided to take the hidden side or whatever it was called.
Yep, exactly.
What's up,
Yeah,
snitch?
I mean, I think now again, this is all prefaced with with the rose-colored glasses. Looking back, I have really fond memories of the sundial because I had a lot of time to play that season, and I helped a lot of people go do the legendary sundial run. So there's a lot of really fond memories with sundial. But I think Menagerie, the way it was set up, and it wouldn't even have to be like Menagerie exactly, but that same style of it was match made. You would go in and you were going to succeed. To Kingsley's point, you were going to get rewarded for your time investment. Now you do well, you blow through it, you get through it quicker, get better loot, you're good to go. But even if you were playing with 5 blueberries and none of you knew what you were doing, or you're just there to farm weapon kills or whatever, you would still get through it eventually. It would just take longer. And that was sort of, I mean, I think, sort of the pinnacle of a good activity because, I mean, Bungie wants everyone to play together from the new lights to the year 10 veterans. That's sort of a good way to do it, of get you in there. And those activities also taught us raid mechanics. Those taught us sort of like the mechanics they were bringing to the game. That's how they taught them to us. Every time we get the coil or the Riven Slayer, I'm going, what are you having me do that I haven't done in the past? Because that's what you're going to throw into the raid or into the new activity or into something that was the training ground for here's what I want you to do. So I mean, I don't know if I would trade it so much for one thing, because again, any of those one things just becomes old after a while. But just some level of rotating. Like you want me to bring my friends into this game. If you want me to bring my friends into this game, what do you want us to do? What activities? If I have to play another strike ever again in my entire life, no, done. I never want to play another strike. I never want to play another battleground. I was so excited for Battleground until it was like, all right, fight these guys. Now we're gonna run. We're gonna run over here. Okay. Now we're gonna fight some more guys. Now we're gonna run over here. Like, no, let me fight the guys. Like when they brought Onslaught out, I was like, don't let this be Battlegrounds where we fight people and when we take the fight to them. I was like, oh, is this gonna be one of those now Sparrow over to this next activity? So I'm glad it was no. You fight here, you fight there. You fight here, you fight there. There's not like fight people and then take a timeout. Get your water bottle, get your orange slices, get back in the game. Like it's a horde mode. It's Onslaught. It's meant to be hard. So I'm glad they gave that to us.
Isn't it funny though? Because in Gambit, like we not to the same extent at all. Because believe me, I will play Gambit over a strike any day of the week.
Yes.
But we still have to go to where they are. Like the enemies don't come to you. You still have to go to their zone, right?
Yep.
So like you're still like, okay, run over here. Okay, run over here. It is interesting because I literally never thought about that until you just said this, Parody. That's great, man.
That's true. You're always your head's on a swivel. Like, okay, where am I going to kill stuff now? Oh, it's over here this time. Okay. Oh, they repeated this side. Awesome.
It is really interesting though. Making that correlation between Gambit and Onslaught, because I guess they are very similar in that sense. I as a PvP nerd, I really enjoy invading.
Yes.
And so you don't get that aspect of it, but you do get the other, like Gambit was kind of a horde mode,
Mhm.
horde mode light, like you were saying,
Yeah.
like, and that aspect of it was fun. So I do like that they took that and improved upon that. And I agree with you for doing an activity where people are moving together, like Menagerie was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like they have not hit a seasonal event like Menagerie since that came out. um, it is I Parody. I know that they're not going to do anything with Gambit. But I have had fun in Gambit over the years. Like I think it is a good time. I think I'd much rather run Gambit than a Strike any day. And for me, like I love invading. I really love invading. Um, I
And we
was
love
looking.
having you there.
What's that?
And we love it when you all come and invade.
Yeah, well,
Having seeing someone in that red invader armor on my team, I'm going, we're good. We got this. We're done. I'll do my thing. You do your thing. We got this.
Exactly.
Well, and I was looking for the screenshot in my Discord. That's what I've been doing this whole time while you guys were talking. Because I had a Gambit match where I killed the other team like 20 or 30 times
Hmm.
in one match. And it was back when
Mhm.
when the portal would
Mm.
continually open.
Yes.
Yep.
And so my team was not doing great, and I literally just kept jumping over and team
Float.
wiping the other team. And I'd go over
Yeah.
and kill them all, and I'd come back, and the portal would open up, and I'd go back over and wipe them all. And that was great because, like, there were during that period of Gambit, I think that was my favorite time in Gambit because that is when you could have epic comebacks. Like, there are so many games that I played where my team was losing, significantly losing the collect motes and kill things part of the game. And so I would just go over and just kill people and I would just slay out. And my goal was to not get shot. So it's just like play your life, kill people, let your
Mhm.
team, like give your team time
Mm.
to recover. And there are so many games where my team was able to win because I gave them time to recover, right? And I think that that's a really fun aspect to it. Personally, I don't like the participation awards that they gave out with heavy. I don't
Mhm.
I don't like that they're like everyone gets a heavy box. Everyone gets heavy. Invaders are scary. Everyone gets heavy.
Mhm.
I think that's bullshit. Destiny is a game where you make builds and you make builds to help support your team, right? If it's an end game content, you need to look at things like am I doing this build for recovery? Am I doing this build to heal my team and keep them alive? Am I doing this build to create special and heavy ammo so that we can DPS things, right? And that was true in Gambit too. Like you put on heavy mods so that you had heavy, so that you could like dunk on the other team. And when they gave everyone heavy, it kind of negated invading because you go over and just get shot by a rocket,
Yep. Yeah.
or yeah. So um I think that they've had really fun versions of Gambit. I think I've definitely had some really fun times in Gambit. It is too bad that they let a lot of that go. I mean, your passion for Gambit and what you're saying about Gambit and maps and attention is like 100% how Sweaty and I feel about Crucible maps.
Yeah.
And like they did a lot of balance changes. Like they did a lot of balance changes. And that's great.
Mhm.
And that changes how you play the game, but you still need maps and you still need things in both Gambit and Crucible to keep it alive. And I think the reason that the population is low is because you didn't invest in it.
Yep.
Like they invested in Onslaught, they made Onslaught a thing, right?
Mhm.
What if they would have taken that same horde mode idea and been like, instead of the guys just sitting in their spawn, why don't they rush the Gambit point, and you have to defend it all of a sudden or build up a defense around it, or it moves like it does an onslaught, you know what I mean? Like they had potential to take that creativity with onslaught and put it towards Gambit and just make Gambit a better horde mode, right? They've changed it enough times already. We've seen Gambit, Gambit Prime, Gambit whatever it is now. um I don't know, man, like hearing you talk about that, I'm glad Onslaught is a thing. I'm glad Bungie has done the things that they have done, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't have taken that same energy and improved upon the things that they already had, right? I don't necessarily think they had to throw them away to make these new things. I think they just chose that path.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still don't
for
understand.
for a long time, I've been like, very tongue in cheek, being like, "Oh, the PvP mains have it bad. Us poor Gambit folks have nothing." Knowing full well PvP needs the love, because honestly, that's where the game got big. Watching people play trials is how a lot of people were introduced to this game. Like if PvP isn't thriving, you lose that entire community.
Yep.
But yeah,
Well,
but
yeah.
it was interesting that they fixed the because people were using all the Taken mods, like from was the Last Wish, where like when you kill Taken, you got heavy ammo. They fixed
Mhm.
that problem by just giving everybody heavy. We'll just give it all to you then. Like, well, that's a solution. And like you guys remember labs? I mean, you PvP
Yeah.
guys, there was
Yeah.
labs. They would trial game modes and changes.
They still have
in
it.
labs, and then run a beta. Well, they had it before in PvP, and then lost it for like 2 years or a
Yeah.
year and a half. It was
Yeah.
just gone.
Yeah.
Because we would joke on the show, like, "Hey guys, you remember labs?" When Bungie was like, "Well, we need to test something out." We're like, "Remember labs? You could test those things." I'm like, "Where's my Gambit labs? Where is my throw it back in there, see what happens?"
Yeah.
Just I mean, throw it in there with the caveat. I mean, they're every time they bring something to PvP in the labs, they're like, "This is labs. It's gonna be stupid. Tell us in which ways it's stupid. We'll make it better." Like,
Yeah.
put the big beta logo on it and throw it out there and say,
Yeah.
"Let us play with it." Throw it in front of your millions of players.
Mhm.
You want to bring, you're bringing people into the game. You're making the content free. You're dropping an incredible into the light, free DLC to everyone. Give people something to play. Throw something at them before they go, "Well, I don't know what this is, but this looks interesting." I mean, you never know what. There's so many facets of this game. You never know what people are going to latch on to.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
give-
I'm with you,
give them
man.
something to play.
And like strikes are fine and they're fun the first time you run them, but it's like a story mission, dude. I'm not trying to run the story mission 30 times.
Yeah.
By the time I've run the story mission on all my characters, I don't want to run the story mission ever again. Like I may, and I'm not their target market for that. I will be honest. Like I am very aware of that. The last time I completed a seasonal story from start to finish of the season has been a very long time because they time gate it now.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't time gate it, I would run that shit start to finish every season. But because it's a weekly, do this, run the seasonal thing, here's some content, talk to you next week. Like I get really motivated, and about 4 to 5 weeks in, it's gone.
Mhm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I think there's design changes and things that they've done that they've created some good things. I'm not saying they haven't. I'm happy with where it is, but I'm with you, Parody man. I think less focus on strikes and things that maybe you run once or twice, and equal focus on things like PvP and Gambit, where you can have let's try this. Let's try this and see what happens and go from there. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
thing about strikes is you can memorize it. They never change. There's nothing RNG about it. You know where that drag sniper's coming from. You're already there waiting for him to appear out of the door, and you kill him. But even with Onslaught, they randomize what comes at you to a certain degree. That's the I mean, that's what Helldivers.
Yeah.
That's what's keeping Helldivers so popular right now, is the fact that they're always changing it up. But that's another. I won't get off that topic. I want to make sure Sweaty had something to. Do you have anything you wanted to add to this, Sweaty, before we move on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what if we turn the derelict into a gulag? So that way, whenever an invader, let's say Team A invader invades Team B, they die. Well, since that invader was killed and Team B was successful in defending, all of a sudden their invader portal stays open and you have the opportunity to continue invading until that invader gets killed, and then the two invaders got to duke it out in the gulag before going back to their team. Now, of course, what is the invader going to do in the derelict in the meantime while you're waiting for said invader to get killed and brought to the supposed gulag? Have a single bank, and whatever team that you're from, you can still have the opportunity of killing the hordes by yourself and collecting those motes and depositing them into the bank. And then suddenly, once there's another player from the enemy team that was supposed to be an invader, you guys have to duke it out to see who gets to keep the points from that bank. And then you go back to your respective teams.
So then we've got our gambling angle and our 1v1 angle all at the same time.
And,
And we
the
throw a
pendulum can
card
swing
game.
either direction.
Remember Call of Duty used to have a gambling game mode. Remember that? If you
Mhm.
lost the fight, you lose your credits or money or whatever it was back then.
Yep.
Yeah. Black Ops, I think that was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that
Yeah.
could be done. Yeah. I was excited to have the two of you on who are primarily PvP players, because again,
Mhm.
you felt this pain of going, yeah,
Mhm.
we had this game mode that we just forgot about for like a couple of years there, and then said, oh, right, we should probably think about that again.
It's been really surreal playing the new PvP maps this week because I actually had a moment today where I was playing comp and a new map came up and I was playing it and I was like, holy shit, I forgot what it was like to play a new map in Destiny and have no idea where I am and
Yeah.
no idea where the lanes are
Right.
and have like a bunch of like chicken with my head cut off moments because it's like
Mhm.
move left, right, left, up, down, where I don't know. And it's like, oh yeah, like you know, you go somewhere like Call of Duty or some shit like that, and it's like, oh, here's 3 or 4 new maps every half season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They
So
do recycle maps, but yeah, they do always do. Those maps are so iconic, Fluffy, that I still remember a lot of those maps from playing Call of Duty 7-8 years ago. The movie theater, remember the movie theater? You can go back behind the screen and shoot people underneath. Sorry, I just remember
Shipment's
all
my
this.
favorite.
Which one?
Shipment.
Okay, yeah,
give me some of the D1 maps.
yeah. But that's Call of Duty's MO is multiplayer. Let's face it, the campaign, half of the people play. It's like the opposite of the campaign in Destiny. Most people play PvE and a fraction, 25% play the PvP stuff. It's you flip it on its head when you're playing Call of Duty. So I don't know. I still think the reason they came up with this strike team is I think they realize if they chase away all their PvP players right now in Destiny, then how are they going to react when Marathon comes out next year? And we all know it's coming out. They just opened up Marathon Classic. It's
Yeah, I
now
see that.
available through Alpha 1. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've jumped on the maps, Fluffy, and private matches just to walk around because that's what I always did in Call of Duty. When a new map pack came out, I'd go in there with my buddies and say, okay, let's look around here. All right, yeah, okay, I see the sight line here. This would work. And I miss those days, man. Those are fun. And it's been so long, like you said, Fluffy, that when you actually get a new map, you're like, wow, I actually have a little angst. I don't know if there could be a sniper around the corner here. I have no clue. And there's levels on these maps. It's great. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great topic, Parody. Thanks for bringing that to the table tonight, man. I know we could probably go on for a while on that topic, but we have 2 more topics tonight, and I want to make sure we get to them and have a good discussion on those as well. So thank you, sir. That means our third topic is next.